cheers, everybody. Thank you all for being club members, and thanks for supporting us. And here's to a good harvest. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. So I'm just going to go get you going here. I guess I'll have Wes go through the wines here, since he was instrumental in making these this year.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'll bring up our little fun chart here to share with you guys, and we'll just start going through things. Do you guys have any questions to begin with before we start? No? All right. Let's get to it. Intro. Welcome. Pinot Gris. Take it away, Wes.
Okay. Pinot Gris, it's originally from Burgundy. It's a common grape grown in the Alsatian region of France. That's up towards the German-France border. So in 21, it was a pretty tough year, as I'm sure you've heard. If you haven't, now you know. It was very rainy, very wet. We had a lot of mildews and rots to deal with. But the Pinot Gris survived. So it was tank fermented. We picked it around, I think, 19 bricks. And then what we've started to do, I guess we started this last year, and we will continue to do going forward, is once the fermentation is over, we will then start stirring the tank. So we're going to stir up the lees, or the expired yeast that are at the bottom of the tank. We'll stir those up into the tank to kind of help give the wine a little more body and texture, and help that expired yeast kind of break down a little more, which will then add to that body and texture, but also that yeast will release other chemical compounds that will add complexity to the wine. So if you're used to Atwater's Pinot Gris, in the past, it was very kind of Pinot Grigio style. So Pinot Grigio and Pinot Gris are the same thing. Pinot Grigio is just the Italian way of saying it, and usually in Italy, it is made in a very light, crisp, lean style, which is what we used to do at Atwater. However, we have moved now into towards a more Alsatian, leesier, a little bigger body. We may even put it in barrels this year, just to really kind of give it a little more body and texture.
We did some in 18 was the first year I think we did the Alsatian sort of style. We did some barrel. We did add some barrels. So 18 was probably the first, but every one before that was the little, like I said, lighter style Pinot Gris.
So some common aromas, especially in you might not pick up too many of these in this style, but like limes and green apples and lemons, you could pick up some of that citrus notes here. But in this Pinot Gris, it's going to be a little more herbal. Definitely have some slight yeast characteristics to it as well. I think the almond and some of the aroma, and even in the flavor profiles, is a common descriptor for me. I think I get quite a bit of almond skin on this Pinot Gris, along with some other spices as well. And I believe that's it for the Pinot Gris, at least from the fermentation standpoint. Yes, here we go. Yeah, tank fermented, lees aged for about 8 months. Harvested only at 19 bricks, which is on the lower side, but again, 2021 was a tougher year. And getting things off the vine a little early isn't necessarily the end of the world. I believe this is a lower-ish alcohol. I don't have a bottle.
12.9. 12.9.
Yep, not, but anyway.
Yeah, I think I had it open for about 40 minutes, and I have put in the glass for about 40 minutes, and I actually like it aerated, and then sort of got a little bit more. It's not really cold. It got warmed up a little bit. It's actually I really like the way it's showing right now.
Yeah,
that
the
bigger body,
Sure.
allows it to open up flavor wise. I think in the glass when it as it warms up, it's kind of really nice.
Yeah, and all the wines we're drinking tonight, even you could even argue that the 2020 Blau is they're on the younger side. So don't be afraid to possibly decant these if you have a decanter, or just leave it in your glass if you can resist drinking from it. They will most likely benefit from a little air, especially the Pinot Gris, in my opinion, compared to the Riesling that's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions about this Pinot Gris? It's a little like Wes was saying, a little bit different styles we moved over in the years. But I think, we have a lot of these lean, sort of crisp, high acid wines. This one, making it a little bit more bodied, sort of went into our catalog of things and how we've been going at Atwater as far as our wine styles over the years. Let's see. But I like Pinot Gris. I think it's a great wine for the Finger Lakes. It's not always, you don't see a lot of it, but I've been really happy with it since we've been growing it. We've been did a couple other things. If you already had it, is we do have a skin fermented version of it. You'll see more of that going on. So we have an orange wine Pinot Gris. There was 24 cases of the first one we did, which was, what was it, 18 or 19? Well, I think it was 8. 18.
That we did the
18.
skin ferment. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
18.
The 18 is half skin,
Yes.
half juice, or half skin or whatever, non-skin. 19 is the first full-on skin ferment year.
Yeah, so we do have that in the tasting room, what's left of it. So it's interesting to taste them side by side to see what the skins contribute. But the next one coming up, which actually we're almost out of this skin ferment. The next one is the full skin ferment Pinot Gris, and I'm going to have to release that pretty soon here because we're almost out of the other one. There's 48 cases of that, but that's a full orange wine, so it's going to be more like our other skin fermented wines. But Pinot Gris is another good one for making skin fermented white wines. We've actually used it. It'll be in our next sparkling blend too. We did a Alsatian blend of Riesling, Gewürz, and Pinot Gris. So yeah, we use it for different things: sparklings, skin ferments, and our still wines too. We had a couple of questions here.
Oh, I'm just taking care of it.
Yeah, I forget how much that is.
It's $24, but I'll put that.
There you go.
Put that in the chat.
Yeah, Pinot Gris can also be aged in barrels, like the orange wines too. It's it can be aged. I mean, we always think of it as that sort of Italian sort of bright something that's not usually aged, but the Alsatian ones can be aged for some time.
Absolutely.
And do develop some really pretty flavors when they age. We don't have a lot of them other than the 18 to go back on to see how long they age in Finger Lakes, but I've kept some back so we can see how it does in the cellar, see how it ages out. All right. I'm still whether we plant anymore, I don't know yet. I have to see what everyone else thinks of it. But it's one of those grapes that I like having, whether we have a lot of it or not, or this is just a small batch. We always have small amounts of it. Will yet to be seen. Okay. Riesling.
So this Riesling is a slight departure from previous Atwater off-dry Rieslings. It's not completely out of the ballpark different, but the difference being is that this was made in the cabinet style, which is a German style of making Riesling where you pick on the earlier side. So I believe this was picked around 19 bricks, and we have two really great Riesling blocks on the farm. It's the southern block. They're both 7 block. Both of the southern blocks, S7 and S11, they ripen really well and ripen early. And they have really great flavor right around 18 and 19 bricks. And so what you get from this is you retain some of the acidity, but you also have lower alcohol. And so why I wanted to do this, mostly because I felt like in the past our semi-dry Rieslings were for just people who wanted something sweet, and the dry Riesling drinkers wouldn't touch it. And I feel like this style is a little more welcoming to dry wine, especially dry Riesling drinkers, because this has a little more acidity than the prior Rieslings. So it has some of the attitude and the zing and the power of a dry Riesling, but it's also very delicate, and it has a slight off dry. I think this is about 2.4% residual. So it kind of meets the demands of the semi-dry wine drinkers. I feel like it's the best of both worlds. It's not cloyingly sweet or anything like that, and it has nice flavor and texture and acidity. So that's what we've done this time. I think it's a success. And it's lower alcohol, so you can drink more of it, which is always good. But some common flavors and aromas: apricot, nectarine, peach, Meyer lemon, lime, honey in the aroma for sure. I get a little honey on this. Definitely some maybe chamomile or some sort of white flower. Yeah, this is one of my favorite ways to make Riesling. Especially, it's really fantastic that we have those 2 blocks of Riesling that really like to ripen early. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, these always, those blocks are just, I mean, even tasting them now, they always just have this beautiful flavors, tropical. Yeah, I just love those, going through those blocks. So Wes is going through right now. We're going through blocks now and making sure that things are ripening. Wes is getting acids and sugar levels, and so now we're starting to decide when we're going to harvest things. And depending on the style, whether we're going to do dry Riesling versus a semi-dry, it's going to depend on where we harvest them, which blocks, which like this one was going to be for this style, and then what blocks we're going to like that are going to go towards dry, or any other, the bubble or anything like that. So we're going to start making those decisions. We know how much we kind of want, and we know which blocks we're always looking at. And so we're going to start making those decisions about what's going where. Now, sometimes we have them in mind, but this is where we have to make the final decisions to harvest or not, or wait, or all those things. And for this style, we decided to harvest it at that sugar level and make this one out of it specifically for the semi-dry. This one, just all tank fermented. We didn't age it very long, 6 months in stainless.
Yeah, no lees, no stirring or anything like that. So it's basically the opposite of what we do for, or not opposite, but for a dry Riesling, we usually tend to age those on the lees and do the tank stirring like we do with the Pinot Gris, especially for the dry Riesling, just to add a little more body and texture. With this, it's kind of supposed to be lean and very acid driven, not more focused on the fruit and less on any body or texture.
All right. Any questions about this Riesling? A little bit different than the last one, which was a little bit less acid and a little heavier. Because it was less acid, definitely came off as a lot sweeter, although it's pretty much close to what the other one was sweetness wise.
Yeah, the residual sugar is not necessarily on the older ones. Not much different than this.
It's like 2.5.
It's always around 2. Yeah, it's always around 2.5 usually.
Yeah. So it's amazing how much changing the acid with Riesling, that's sort of what Riesling's acidity, the perceived sweetness that you get can change depending on the acidity. Even if it could be the same sugar, residual sugar, higher acid is going to come off as a drier wine. You'll see sometimes on some Rieslings they have a scale on the back, says the IMF scale, and that sort of helps people understand the dryness of the wine or the level that the Rieslings are at, just because of that high acidity. Any other questions about Riesling? All right. Wow, you guys, we're going to get through this. Now we're going to sit around and just drink and chat.
There's some chat questions.
There's some chat questions.
So Rachel has a good question. She's just wondering how does the sugar level on this Riesling compare to the dry? So the dry Riesling is virtually 0% sugar, where this is 2.4%. If you want that in grams per liter of sugar, it's about 24 grams per liter of sugar for this wine. And I think it's like 1 gram per liter or virtually 0 grams per liter for the dry.
I remember all of our conversions.
Yes. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I'm getting a lot of this today. Speaking of that, it's beeswax. Beeswax and a lot of beeswax. I like a little beeswax. Oh, there we go. A little bit about the tank there. 6 months. So September 30th, huh?
Wow. Yeah, I might be close. Well, I don't know.
Maybe or earlier.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe earlier.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, this year is turning out to be probably an early year. Blaufränkisch. Well,
Wow, yes.
here we go.
There
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so Blaufränkisch originated in Austria, and the Austrians pretty much have championed, that is their go-to or kind of flagship red in Austria is Blaufränkisch. The Germans call it Lemberger because they have to be different. But it's a very kind of robust grape. It's this big, huge cluster, sometimes as long as, my face, 8 to 10 inch long cluster, big grapes, very juicy. On the darker end of the fruit spectrum, so blackberries and black cherry, and you'll get some chocolate and some spices as well. And you can get a little black pepper sometimes as well. We love it at Atwater. It grows pretty well. This year is an exception. It is struggling a little bit this year, but 9 times out of 10, it grows really well. In 2020, again, if you have not heard this come from my mouth or any other winemaker's mouth, 2020 was a fantastic year for growing grapes. It was not a fantastic year for everything else, but for growing grapes in the Finger Lakes, it was a spectacular year, at least for us at Atwater. It was pretty dry. The heat was normal, but it was what really changed the year was the drought that we had. So the fruit got really concentrated. The color was really dark. There's a lot more tannin than you would usually get in other years, and so it's a really just an all-around great year especially for reds. Whites were good too, but the reds in particular were really phenomenal. Definitely very special. So Blaufränkisch, we bin ferment this, so we just put it in an open top bin. We send the grapes through our crusher, so they're crushed up and juice is released. We dump those into a bin and let them ferment. In this case, it was for about 10 days. We do daily punch down, so we take this big tool with a kind of a flat circle at the top or the bottom, and push down the skins to keep them moist and to help extract some more color and aroma and flavor from those skins. And then they go into barrel. In this case, it was about 9 months in neutral American and as well as Hungarian oak. Hungarian oak is pretty special because it really adds this, it really lends well to Blaufränkisch. It adds this kind of, although these barrels are neutral, they still impart some flavor, or just they kind of give it a little character, their own touch. And Hungarian oak really brings in this kind of like meat, cured meat aspect to the wine, which is really interesting. Yeah.
I mean, this one's probably one of my favorite. I think it's one of our top Blaus that we've made. I think it's still pretty young, but it's got like every one of those flavor suggestions there. It's a really nice Blau. It's almost got a floral note to it. Yeah, I love this one. Like everything in 2020 was really concentrated, and I wish we had more of the grapes than we did, but this one was just beautiful, clean fruit.
Yeah.
And it's going to age really nicely. And this is going to lend well to like the 16 we had, and even a couple of the other years, but this one's got to be my favorite. Unfortunately, once again, there's only 120 cases, and most of it went to you guys in the club. So there's just a few. There's probably about 15 cases left.
Yeah, 15, 20 cases.
So it went pretty fast, unfortunately. It's always these great vintages that there's not much of. Yeah. So drink it while you got it. Set these down. This will age really nicely if you got some place to keep it. Definitely. Yeah, who knows this year? I think it's mostly going to go to Rosé this year. Looking at this year, we had a very similar summer to 2020. Although we had in the previous winter, we had a couple bad days that did some damage to many of the vineyards out here. Couple cold nights, and one night in particular that did a lot of bud damage. And it looks like we probably had some issues from that, as well as because of that and the drought. It was like a 1-2 punch to a couple of these couple grapes out there. We were relatively lucky. Some of our other winemaker friends had whole vineyards that basically got hammered. So what that means for us is, the Blau is probably going to go to Rosé. We have smaller clusters, less grapes. I think it's going to be a really good for the Rosé. There's just not a lot out there, so we decided that's probably the best way to go with it. And I do like a good Blau Rosé. We didn't have one last year, and it was well, we did. We had the Cap Franc Blau.
Yes.
And as all things, with lower yields, I don't think we're going to have any Cap Franc, but we're going to have a couple different rosés, with our one might be just a Blau. One's going to be a Pinot and possibly the Lagrein Zweigelt again. So I'll just give you guys some insight into this year as we're talking about these wines from our last shipment. Any questions to talk about Blau? I always love that Blau's also grown in Hungary, so with the Hungarian barrels, I feel like it's just got all of those sort of really bold things going on. The bold barrels, the bold flavors. Yeah, it's just a big wine. I love it. Okay. Pressing October 10th. When do we harvest this? October 1st. Oh, it's we'll probably be harvesting. Yeah, it seems like a long way away this year. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be running this far into our thing. You can see the bricks are nice and high. 22. Yeah, it's always fun to look back at these numbers. We're always tasting through these things, and you forget about things for a while. You bring them out, and then you taste them, and then looking back at all these things now that we're getting to the next vintage and going to be looking at harvest dates and bricks again. This is a great chance for us to look at all these numbers and see what's at a very similar year, 2020. See how different things are.
We could hit 22. The Blau is 19.4 today.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
We could hit 22. If we hit 21, we'll be happy.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, last but not least, not on everyone's shipment, but there was this other fun one, and Wes could definitely talk about this because we got Best Pet Nat in New York State for this one. This is our sparkling Pet Nat of Lagrein Zweigelt, and we got a couple things here for the grapes. Zweigelt and Lagrein are two of our newest plantings. We planted them in 19, I guess. They're all, well, here we go, an Austrian and the Zweigelt being Austrian, like our friend Blau there, and the Zweigelt being northern. It's like other way around. There we go. There we are. Zweigelt, Austrian. And the Blau, it's sort of fun having these. We have a lot of Austrian grapes, the Gruner Veltliner, Zweigelt, Lagrein, or Blaufränkisch. And so the first year of grapes, we decided to make a rosé, and it looks like we're going to be doing that this year too. So yeah, Wes can talk about how we made this, and I'm actually happy I got a bottle of it. I don't know if everyone does. I'm sorry if you don't, but it's really good.
Yeah, it is spectacular. It was definitely a surprise, and of course an honor to get the best in class Pet Nat for the New York grape, New York wine. I can't remember what it's called. I should remember, but
the New York
Wine Classic.
State
New York
Wine Classic.
Yes. But so what we did last year at 2021 was the first year we got a crop off of the Zweigelt and the Lagrein, and this isn't necessarily a written in stone type of rule, but most of the time I feel like people on the first crop of the first for vines, their first crop goes to rosé. It's not always the case, but we usually I felt like we should just put it to rosé that year, and the year kind of called for it anyway. I believe these were the first grapes we actually took off, or we harvested first. So we decided to just co-ferment them and blend them together, and we made a regular rosé out of this, and then we made the Pet Nat, which, if you're not familiar with Pet Nats, it is short for Pétillant Naturel, which is French for naturally sparkling. And so in this case, the wine goes through its fermentation, but right at the end of its fermentation, it is put into bottle. So it's bottled while it's still fermenting. And the byproduct of fermentation, or one of the byproducts of fermentation, is CO2. So that's how you get your bubbles. So the wine finishes in its bottle, creates carbonation naturally, and then you have basically, it's like a easy way to make sparkling wine. However, if you drink this, you'll notice, as George is showing on his screen, if you can see that, there is sediment at the bottom. Because it is still fermenting when you put it in the bottle, there's still yeast, active yeast, and once those yeast expire, they of course fall to the bottom of the bottle. So for some people, that's not really something they're used to seeing. It won't hurt you. It is harmless, and it adds a very textural aroma, texture to the wine itself. I personally like it. And you can also open them and pour them in a way where you don't get all of that. You don't have to like mix it up. They usually just stay at the bottom of the bottle anyway. And yeah, so we made I was saying earlier, we made rosé out of it. So this is basically sparkling rosé. that we made, and I personally think it's absolutely delicious. It's very good. It's definitely a creation I am proud to share.
It's a beautiful color. Yeah, it's gorgeous color.
Yes, both Zweigelt and Lagrein are very dark, dark-skinned grapes, and so this saw no skin contact. This was just immediately pressed, but it's still very dark. That just goes to just how dark those skins are, and how much color they let off into the wine. Someday we will make a standalone barrel-aged Zweigelt and Lagrein, and you will see how very dark both of them are. Probably darker than anything else on the farm, including Blau or even Cabernet Sauvignon or something like that. They're very dark colored grapes.
Yeah, I looking at all that, again, licorice and red cherries and all that. Ah, there's Lagrein.
Yeah, so Lagrein, I guess it's from Burgundy. It's very commonly grown in northern Italy, up in kind of the Mount Etna region. I think that's Alto Adige, might be the AVA, or not AVA, the AOC, the region that it's grown in. It's pretty cold hardy, which I think is why we planted it, and it does well in cooler climates. It has much higher acid. It's a higher acid red wine, which plays very well into all the other reds we grow here in the Finger Lakes. And I believe we, along with Red Tail Ridge and maybe one other person, are the only people who have it. So it is definitely, at least in the Finger Lakes. There are some in Long Island.
Yep.
But other than that, I'm not familiar with anybody else who grows it. So it'll be really fun. Hopefully next year we will be able to make a barrel fermented red out of it. I think it'll be it proved itself in 2021, and it's holding up pretty well this year. So I think it'll be definitely it definitely has a future here at Atwater for sure.
We're planting
another acre.
acre.
Yeah, so we liked it that much, just off of the rosé. And if we don't like the red, it makes a really, if we don't like the barrel aged red for some reason, it makes a really great rosé, whether it's sparkling or just still. So yeah.
Yeah, I was happy when we had tasted a couple of these and we liked them. We talked with Red Tail when they were growing it, and it was one of the choices. We had looked at a couple different reds, and as well as there were things like Toraldigo and Saperavi and things like that. We chose these two as ones to plant. So we're wanting to see how they did, and we'll be planting at least more of the Lagrein starting. We'll see how we felt about the Zweigelt going into this year, whether we plant more of that. But it's fun to bring in some of these, especially like this. I mean, it's in a couple places, but it's really not well known. People don't know about Lagrein. Zweigelt, there's some, even Blau. I mean, unless you've come to the Finger Lakes a lot, or you're from Austria, these aren't grapes that you're going to necessarily be familiar with. So it's fun to bring them out and show them off, and in a climate that's favorable to them. We've been excited to see how they were going to do, and I think, as Wes said, I think we've been pretty happy with them, and I'm happy with how they turned out in the rosés a lot. We got that just for this rosé, with the blend of these two, Beth Petnat, and then the rosé still version of this, we got a 91 from Wine Enthusiast for. So that's pretty exciting too. People seem to really enjoy these, and I'm excited to start making, have Wes and them start making barrel aged versions of this, because I think they're going to be awesome. This year, like I said, we didn't get a lot more, so and we need a little rosé, so we're gonna have to probably put it to rosé. But probably next year, if all goes well, we'll get some barrel aged out of it, and y'all can taste to see what that is with us. But I'm pretty excited. I'm really excited to plant another acre of it, at least the Lagrein. There's a little bit of some stuff there. This was all hand-picked in whole cluster press, as Wes was talking. Yeah, relatively lower bricks, but perfect for sparkling pet nat.
Yeah.
Oops. Any other wines you guys are interested in, or any questions about the wines we just tasted while you're all here? No. Okay. Well, a couple other things before we go. If you guys haven't been here a while, we got a new door. I guess we took a picture of the new door. You get to walk in a new direction instead of the old big wood door, walking into these fancy new silver doors here. So we're doing, as we continue in the tasting room, things have changed even more, and they will continue to change over the winter as we make the tasting room a little bit, give us a little more room and change things up. My brother, who's an artist, has made some 2 giant 5-foot by 4-foot paintings. They're not quite on the wall yet, but they're actually in the tasting room. So I'm so excited to have those hung in their correct place. And you can take a look at that. He also did the artwork for the labels. So you can see what his big art looks like on the walls, soon to be over there in the front as you walk in. So we got those changes. I'm still working on cabinets and counters in there. So there's some fun stuff in the tasting room. If no one's been there yet this summer, it will definitely be a change since the last time you guys have been in. Those are exciting things. We're also doing some landscaping, putting some stairs down to the new picnic area down there outside, where all of the gravel areas below the deck. We're putting some stairs and trying to make that a little prettier down there too. While we're all doing this harvest and everything else, so a lot going on. I'm excited to get through the winter and do some finishing touches in the tasting room. So if you guys are going to be making your way over, let me know what y'all think of all the changes. The wines, of course, we got our awesome winemakers continuing their quest to make the best wines, and I'm really happy to get started tomorrow, especially the sparkling. Sparkling's been something we've been deciding to make more of, so we just disgorged, or we'll be disgorging the next vintage of sparkling, which will be that blend I talked about earlier. So there's that going on. So hopefully by the end of the year, you'll be able to get the new sparkling wine, our method Champenois. Yeah, lots of fun things going on this year. Thank you guys all for everything you've done to help support us. The wine club is something that keeps us going all year long, and it's it's always humbling to see how many people love our wines enough to actually get them routinely. So thank you all for all of that.
Yes.
That means a lot to us and helps keep us going, and gives us that warm feeling that people are enjoying what we do. So thank you all for that. Any other questions before we go? All of our good friends here. I guess I didn't look at the chat. Thanks, Rachel. Yeah. Well, enjoy the rest of the bottles, whatever you're drinking there. I'm going to finish up this pet nat. I think I might take this home for Amy, and I think we'll finish that off tonight, because why not? And I got my couple glasses of other things here too. So I should be all warmed up and ready for early tomorrow morning to oversee the start of a harvest. So thank you guys. We're going to get ourselves ready and be up early and start making wine for next year. Thanks again. If you guys have any questions in the meantime, you can always email us. Check out our website for everything going on. I know they got music tonight in the tasting room. Every Thursday night we have music, singer-songwriters in the tasting room. So that's what's going on right now out there while we're in here drinking wine. I'm going to go down there and listen to some music before I go. I hope you guys all enjoyed everything, and we'll see you guys hopefully in a little while in the tasting room. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Thank you guys.